Hello, it's Ashley. Welcome to my channel and thank you for watching my videos. This is the part 2 of how to make the simple bead sandals. The part 1 was basically the beading part, and this part will be the stitching part. So you take your slippers, and then I usually take out the sides so that I don't forget to glue them back in. Mostly I forget if I don't take them out. So you're going to cut down the slippers along the part where you'll be stitching. I cut it that way so that when I do the stitching, the thread hides in between the line that the cutting made. It's basically not important. Most people don't cut it, but I cut it just so that the thread hides that way and it's not showing. That way the thread doesn't wear off easily, and then the sandal keeps very long. So that is why I cut it. Most people don't cut it. So this is how we'll be stitching the first part. This was the first beading we made. This is how we'll be stitching it to the sandals. So you thread up your needle. With the needle sets, with the stitching, you need to use the biggest needle in the needle set, but you can use any other needle, that's fine. But mostly this one doesn't break easily, so I use that one for the stitching part. But as long as your thread can enter any other needle you have, it's still fine. I'm not going to talk much because I feel like talking interrupts with the watching, so I'm just going to let you guys watch. So this is how you're able to measure where you start with the stitching. So you need to put your needle in place once you're done with measuring, so that it doesn't shift, you don't lose the measurement. Then you use your plier and then push the needle through the slippers all the way down. Some stitches sideways, but I feel like sideways, it's like the slippers doesn't keep long that way, so I put it all the way down and then bring it up. I do the stitching that way, but if you want to do it sideways, it's still fine. But if you want the sandals to really keep long, I would suggest you do the stitching that way. So you see that the thread is being hidden by the cut that I made earlier. So that was the purpose of the cut, so that the thread at the end of the day doesn't show. Therefore it's not weared off very easily. Until the slippers is actually weared off, the thread won't wear off. But if it's not hidden, the thread will be the first thing to wear off, therefore making the beads remove. Like I said, you need to pass the needle in between a bead for a couple of times to make sure that it has a very strong grip on the slippers. You have to make sure that the last bead and then the first bead has a very strong grip, because mostly that's where the pressure is on. So you make sure that it has a very strong grip on the slippers. So when your thread is still long, when you're done, you pass the needle through a couple of beads very far away from where you did the stitches. Then you make a knot. So I'm making a knot here, and then after I'm done, I pass the needle through a couple of beads to hide the knot that I made. Then I can now cut off the excess thread that is left. And then one side is done, so now I have to stitch the other side. Once you're able to measure the first side correctly, the second side, the measuring is not an issue, because automatically you can measure it up against the first stitch that you made, and then you just start stitching. So it's practically the same procedure, guys. Thread your needle up, put it in between beads, make a knot, pull it hard, and then pass it through beads to hide the knot that you made, and send it all the way up to the first bead where you'll be stitching with. This is this first bead, guys. So you put the needle in place, and then pick your plier and push it all the way down. So the stitching is just same procedure all over. Just pass it through the bead, send it down, bring it up, pass it through the bead again, send it down, bring it up, pass it through another bead. So pass it through a couple of beads all the way up, far away from where you did the stitching, and then you make a knot. Pass it through a couple of beads to hide the knot that you made, and then cut off the excess thread. And that's it, guys. First part of the stitching is done, and actually that's the hardest part of the stitching. This is the other part. That one you're going to stitch it just an inch after the hole. That's the measurement for that one, just an inch after the hole. So it's still the same thing. Pass your bead, make a knot, pass it through a couple of beads all the way down to the bead that you'll be starting with the stitching with. That's it, guys. So you put the needle in place, make sure measurement is in place, and then you use your plier and push it. pass it back up, pass it through the same bead again, and then send it all the way down. Good. Now we have a very strong grip. You can pass it back and pass it through the same bead again, or you can just go to the next bead after 2 stitches. So through the next bead and then send it down. Always make sure to pull your thread very hard, guys, to make sure that it's very tight and the beading is having a strong grip on the slippers. It's very important. Once it's loose, it's not going to be nice and it's not going to keep long really. So always make sure that you pull it well to make sure that it has a strong grip. Now you pass it through a couple of beads up, far away from where you made the stitching, and then you go and make your knot. So this is where I made my knot, and then I hid the knot in between beads. Then I cut off the excess thread. So now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. And that's it, guys. Now pass our needle up, pass our needle up through a couple of beads, make a knot, cut off the excess thread, and then that's all about the stitching. And we're done. So the next part is sealing up those holes. So this is where your 8mm beads come in with the glue. Sorry. So you put the glue in the hole, and then you just practically just close it with the beads. And this is why I remove the down. I remove the down parts down. Usually when I do this without removing it, I forget that I have to glue that side too. So I just leave it, and then the person walks for a few days and then it comes off. But once you do this and then you turn the back, you realize it's not there, you have to glue that back, and then that gives it a strong grip too. So you put the glue and then put it back. The glue I usually use is E6000, but I only had this around, so I used that, and it's practically fine. But you can use E6000 too. So you see the thread is not appearing. That's it, guys. That's practically it. So we now have to create a space for, since it's not a bottom sandals, we're going to be using that, something like a thread, or let's say a lace. So we have to create a place where we'll lace it up. So 4 beads. We just need a small hole where we'll put the lace through. And since the thing is wide, the band is wide, we'll be making 2 of that. So 2 lace holes on this side, and then 2 lace holes on the other side. And it's done. So this is completely optional. Most people use it because they do their stitching to the side, but I do my stitching all the way down where the needle doesn't even show. So they use this to cover up their stitching pattern, but since I don't do the stitching to the side, this is completely optional. It's just a decorative, guys, and it's not necessary. Whether it's there or not, the sandals is still cute. But then, so you measure it up from where the stitching began, and then just glue it up. It's funny how long that lasts too. I did sandals for someone, was it 3 years ago? So, and then about a week ago, I saw the person with the sandals, and that decorative is still there. It doesn't also go off. It also keeps just as long as the beads keeps long on the sandals. So this is going to be our lace. I really don't know what this is called. we call it bias here, but I really don't know the name for it. I'll find out the name and then I'll let you guys know. So that is what we use for our lace. So first lace, you lace it up, then you tie it like a bow. I like tying it like a bow, it makes it look cute. And then the next one up, and then you tie that one too like a bow. And then you have your simple beadwear, guys. It's just that simple. I'm sorry for the time, I'm still not good at editing where I can make the time shorter. That's why I had to make it in 2 parts. But as time goes on, I'm sure I can learn more and then make the time shorter. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Please remember to like and subscribe.